let's just say your Social Security survivor benefit was $1,500 a month, and you were going to earn under $56,520, then you could receive that whole benefit without any reduction, even though you're only going to be 62 next year, because of that special provision that is in place for a Social Security survivor benefit.
Are you ready for a successful retirement? We're addressing the topics facing today's retirees. Welcome to Retire with Ryan. Now here's your host, Ryan Morrissey.
Welcome back. This is episode 127. In this week's episode, I'm going to address 3 listener questions that I've received over the past few months. Been receiving a lot of listener questions, and I greatly appreciate all my listeners, especially those that have taken time to submit a listener question. And if you have a listener question that you'd like to have reviewed in a future episode, you can submit it by going to retirewithryan.com. Our first listener question is from Sue-Ann. And Sue-Ann writes in that her husband recently passed away in February. She's 61 years old, and she plans on taking Social Security at 62 and still work, and she figured that she would receive half of her Social Security then, and at 66, she'll be taking her husband's survivor benefit. With that, will his benefits receive the cost of living adjustment through the years? First off, Sue-Ann, my condolences to hear that your husband recently passed away in February. Now, that last part of your question, the quick answer is yes. Any benefits you're either receiving or not collecting are going to receive any cost of living adjustments. And I mentioned a few episodes back that the Social Security cost of living adjustment for next year is 8.7%. But Sue-Ann, I think there are a couple other things that you should think about. Now, you mentioned that you're going to be collecting your Social Security benefit and working, your own benefit. So as listeners know, if you collect your own benefit early, up until the year that you reach your full retirement age, there's a limit to how much you can earn while collecting your Social Security benefit before your full retirement age. And that number for this year is $19,560. But for next year, 2023, that number is $21,240. So I'm guessing that you calculated how much you're going to earn next year in your benefit and how much you'll receive. So that is one option. And keep in mind that anytime you earn over next year, $21,240, your benefit is reduced $1 for every $2 that you earn over that. So that is one option. Another option for you would be to possibly collect their survivor Social Security benefit. Now, obviously, there'll be a reduction in the benefit because you are collecting it early, but you are eligible to earn up to the allowance that you'd be eligible for in the year that you reach full retirement. So in the year that you reach full retirement, you can actually earn a higher amount. And that amount for this year was $52,380. But for next year, that's going up to $56,520. So that, let's just say your Social Security survivor benefit was $1,500 a month, and you were going to earn under $56,520, then you could receive that whole benefit without any reduction, even though you're only going to be 62 next year, because of that special provision that is in place for a Social Security survivor benefit. Additionally, Social Security survivor benefits don't receive delayed credits. And for you, it sounds like if you're turning 62 next year, your full retirement age is 67, which means if you waited until 70 to collect your own benefit, you'll receive an 8% increase per year for those 3 years, so a 24% increase over your full retirement benefit. And you also would continue to earn any cost of living adjustments on that number. So let's just say you started collecting the survivor benefit next year. You then let your own benefit defer, and you let your own benefit defer until age 70. That benefit could possibly eclipse your Social Security survivor benefit, and then at 70, you could switch over to your own benefit, and now you'll be getting an even higher Social Security benefit. So you'd have to look at the numbers and see if that's possible. But I've had a number of clients, unfortunately in your situation, where their spouse passed away when they were in their early 60s. They collected the Social Security survivor benefit and then switched over to their own benefit at age 70. Our second question comes from Steven, and Steven writes in that he's an investor with funds in the Cetera network, and as you can imagine, the funds are doing poorly. I'm not thrilled with the financial planner either. Can I switch to a different financial planner without having to sell the funds and take a big loss? So, Stephen, yes, you can definitely switch financial planners and not have to sell your funds. Most financial planners are using some custodian, such as I use TD Ameritrade Institutional, but some of the other big ones out there are Fidelity, possibly Charles Schwab, or other broker dealers. And most of those firms will allow you to change companies without having to sell your funds. Those firms use something called the ACAT transfer system. And you need to check with the new financial planner you're considering hiring to find out where they are going to be holding your money. And then if you give them your account statement and show them the funds that you have, they could then tell you if they could hold these funds. Chances are that if it's a traditional type of mutual fund, they'd be able to hold it. And it's also a good time as I guess you say you're unhappy that your funds are down. That in itself isn't concerning to me because it has been a trying year for the stock market and for the bond market. So depending upon what you're invested in or what sectors of the market you're in, it's going to determine, you might be down as much as the market, maybe more or less, but it's always a good time to be assessing what you have. And you'd be looking at things like the performance of your funds versus the different benchmarks. So if it's a large cap fund, how is that fund done against large cap funds, or a small cap fund? How is it done against other small cap funds? And then also a good time to look at the expense that you're paying in these funds. I'm definitely more of a fan of passive investing strategies. And it sounds like if you're in mutual funds, most mutual funds are actively managed funds. So you'd want to understand what are the ongoing costs that you're paying in there, and it might not be worth keeping these. And you talk about taking a tax loss or a loss. If these are retirement funds, then a tax loss doesn't apply. But if they are funds where you have non-retirement monies, it could be a good idea to think about taking a tax loss. And if you didn't listen to episode 117, how to lower your income tax with tax loss harvesting, I would consider going back and listening to that episode. And our third question comes from Lyra. And Lyra writes in, can you explain tax loss harvesting and possibly how to use that loss to convert more to a Roth? So anytime you're considering doing a Roth conversion, that means you're taking some of your pre-tax IRA or 401k money. You're going to pay tax on it to be able to move it over to the Roth account, where when you take the money out of the Roth in future years, you won't have to pay income tax on it. But you do have to pay the tax when you do that conversion. So this is where tax loss harvesting can help you. So let's just say you did have an investment that had a loss. Let's say you had a mutual fund in a non-retirement account that had a $10,000 loss, meaning that it was worth currently $10,000 less than what you had purchased it for. Well, you could sell that fund this year, therefore creating a $10,000 loss. And you could use $3,000 of that loss this year to write off as a loss on your taxes as a $3,000 deduction. That's the maximum deduction you could take. The remaining $7,000 you could either use in future years, or if you had another capital gain in this year, you could use that to offset that gain. Now, that $3,000 loss is how you can help reduce your taxes when it comes to a Roth conversion, because anytime you're doing a Roth conversion, you have to pay tax on the conversion. So let's just say you were going to convert $30,000 over to the Roth side, and that you had calculated it was going to cost you 25% between federal and state tax on that conversion, therefore creating a $7,500 tax bill. Well, if you had that tax loss, as we mentioned before, you could use $3,000 to reduce the conversion amount. So therefore, you're only paying tax on the conversion of 25% on $27,000 instead of $30,000, and that would lower the taxes owed to about $6,750. Therefore saving you $750 in taxes by using this tax loss. So I wish it did more. It would be really nice if you could, in my example, that $10,000 loss, if you could reduce the conversion amount by $10,000. Unfortunately, you can't. You can only use these tax losses to either offset other capital gains that you have in this year or future years, or you can use up to $3,000 per year to write down on your taxes. So definitely, if you have a tax loss, make sure you take it before the end of the year and or do your Roth conversion before the end of the year. And my advice usually on Roth conversions is doing it in years where you have low income so that you're paying the least amount of tax on the conversion. And it also really makes the most sense when you believe you can convert at a lower rate than you'll be paying tax at a future rate. So if you think your tax bracket is going to be the same in retirement as it is while you're working, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to do Roth conversions because you're really just paying the tax up front, where you could just leave the money tax deferred and let it keep growing. But if you think your tax rates are going to be higher in the future, which is possible for all of us, tax rates could definitely go higher, or you think you have the ability to leave the money in there in the Roth for a long time and maybe leave it to your heirs, then it can make a lot of sense. I really appreciate these listener questions. And again, if you have a listener question that you'd like to be considered for a future episode, please go to retirewithryan.com and submit your listener question there. Thanks for tuning in this week. Have a great week, and I look forward to talking with you next Wednesday. Take care.
You should consult a financial advisor familiar with your specific circumstances before you make any financial decisions. Nothing in this broadcast constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Any mention of rates of return are historical or hypothetical in nature and are not a guarantee of future returns. Ryan Morrissey, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Morrissey Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor.